Real people, real confessions, the stories you weren't supposed to hear. Welcome to Beyond Reddit Stories. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, the kind with paper-thin walls and a kitchen that doubles as a hallway, when the email came through. It was from the county registrar's office. At first, I thought it was just some property tax notice I'd accidentally been CC'd on. But then I saw the words that made my stomach drop: transfer of property ownership confirmed. The property was my mother's house. The same house I'd been pouring money into for nearly a decade, fixing the roof when it leaked, replacing the old heating system in the dead of winter, paying off her overdue bills when the collectors started calling. The house I believed. No, the house I knew would one day be my safe place. And now, with one signature and a trip to a lawyer's office, it was gone, given to my brother. My brother who hadn't paid a single cent toward that house. My brother who spent most of his 20s chasing one get-rich-quick scheme after another, usually calling me for a small loan that never came back. My brother who my mother once told me needed more help than you ever will, because you're the strong one. In that moment, sitting there with my laptop screen glowing cold in the dark room, I realized something. The betrayal didn't hurt just because of the house. It hurt because, for years, I thought my sacrifices meant something. I thought I'd earned a place in my own family's future. Turns out, I was just a convenient safety net. And safety nets don't get to keep the trapeze. Before all of this, before the legal documents and the knot in my chest every time I thought about home, my life was painfully ordinary. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew what your dad drove, where you bought your groceries, and whether or not you mowed your lawn on Sunday. My father died when I was 12. One minute he was there, making pancakes with too much syrup, and the next, he was gone, a heart attack that left my mother holding the weight of 2 kids and a mortgage she could barely afford. My brother, Eric, was 16 then, the golden child, the one my mom used to call her sunshine. He was charming, funny, always finding ways to skip chores without getting caught. He wasn't cruel, at least not then, but he had a talent for avoiding responsibility. People adored him for it. I suppose my mother did most of all. Me. I was the responsible one, the planner, the kid who made sure the bills got mailed out on time after Dad died, even if I had to ride my bike to the post office. I got good grades, kept my head down, and figured the best way to help my mom was to never be a problem she had to solve. When I left for college on scholarships and part-time jobs, not a dime from home, I thought I'd finally get to live my own life. But every few weeks, my phone would buzz with a text from Mom. It was never a direct request. Not at first. Just little hints. The water heater's acting up. Your brother's car broke down again. I hate to bother you, but the electric bill came out higher than usual. And every time, I sent money. Not because she asked outright, but because I knew she wouldn't. And because I couldn't stand the thought of her struggling. At first, it was small 50 here, 100 there. Then, when she lost her job at the local library, it turned into covering the mortgage for a few months, then repairs, then groceries, then everything. I told myself it was temporary. That's what you do for family. But temporary has a way of becoming permanent when you're the only one willing to step up. And Eric, he was always between jobs, or about to land something big. Mom never pushed him. She said he had a harder time in life, that he needed more of her attention. I guess I believed her. Still, no matter how unfair it felt at times, I told myself one thing to keep going. The house will be there. The house is the anchor. Someday, if I needed it, I could come back. Someday, all the money, all the sacrifices, would mean I had earned that place. I didn't realize, back then, how dangerous it is to build your sense of security on promises that were never spoken out loud. The first cracks started to show the winter Mom slipped on the front steps and fractured her ankle. She couldn't work for months, and since the library job had been gone for years, there was no sick leave, no insurance. I covered everything: the mortgage, her utilities, groceries, even Eric's gas money so he could help her get around. But help turned out to mean driving her to the doctor twice a month and spending the rest of the time camped out in her living room, eating takeout on my dime. One day, I stopped by unannounced, arms full of groceries, and found the TV blaring, my brother sprawled on the couch, and Mom laughing at something on his phone. The groceries I'd bought the week before were untouched, the fresh produce rotting in the fridge while fast food bags piled up on the counter. Eric's been such a big help, Mom said as she took the milk from me. I don't know what I'd do without him. I bit my tongue so hard it hurt. He was living rent-free, eating my groceries, driving my car, yes, my car. Because his had broken down again and somehow I was the one getting thanked in passing while he got praised like a hero. It only got worse. A month later, Mom called saying the furnace was dead. I wired $3,200 to have it replaced. When I visited after the repairs, she mentioned casually that she'd had the furnace guy also spruce up the basement so Eric could have his own private space. New carpet, new paint, a flat screen mounted on the wall, all paid for by me. Then came the electricity bill incident. I'd been paying it online for years, under her account. One day, the system locked me out. I called the company, and they said, "We can't give you details, the account's now under Eric's name." That's when I realized this wasn't just me helping my mom anymore. This was me funding my brother's lifestyle under the convenient label of helping family. The final blow in this chapter came when I overheard them talking in the kitchen. I dropped by to deliver some paperwork for Mom's insurance. Eric was saying, "You know, if we ever put the house in my name, I could get a loan against it. Fix the place up. Make it ours." Ours, not hers, not the family's, theirs. Mom didn't argue. She didn't even hesitate. She just said, "We'll see." I stood there in the hallway, my heart pounding, realizing I'd been writing checks to secure a future I wasn't even invited to. I didn't have to wait long for "we'll see" to become reality. 2 weeks later, Mom called me, her voice strangely bright. "Oh, honey, just a heads up, I went to see a lawyer today. Don't panic, it's just paperwork stuff." My stomach clenched. What kind of paperwork? "Oh, nothing for you to worry about," she said. "The way people do when they know it's exactly something you'll worry about. Eric and I decided it's best to put the house in his name now, just in case anything happens to me, you know, for simplicity." I remember gripping the phone so tightly, my hand went numb. For simplicity, Mom. I've been paying for that house for years. Why would you? "Because you're fine, sweetheart. You've always been fine. You've got your job, your apartment. Eric doesn't have what you have. He needs this." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not a loud, dramatic break, more like a quiet tearing sound, the kind you barely hear but can never undo. I drove to her house that night. Eric was there, of course, in his basement suite I'd apparently financed. I didn't even look at him. I went straight to the kitchen where Mom was making tea like nothing in the world was wrong. "I want to understand," I said, setting my keys on the counter. "Why him? Why not both of us? Why not tell me before you signed anything?" She didn't meet my eyes. She stirred her tea slowly and said, "You wouldn't understand. Family isn't about keeping score. It's about doing what's right for the one who needs it most." "And what about the one who gave the most?" My voice shook. "What about the years I sent money, the repairs, the bills, That was your choice." She cut in sharply. "I never forced you, and I'm grateful. But Eric's future is more uncertain than yours. This will give him stability." It felt like being told my worth in this family was measured entirely by how much I could give, and how little I asked for in return. Eric wandered in halfway through, holding a beer, smirking just enough to make me want to smash it out of his hand. "Hey," he said to Mom, like I wasn't even in the room, "when the transfer's finalized, I'm thinking we repaint the living room, brighten things up." I left before I could say something I'd regret, sat in my car, staring at the glow from their kitchen window, and finally accepted what I'd been refusing to see. They weren't going to stop taking from me, not until I stopped giving. That night, I opened my laptop and canceled every automatic payment, the mortgage, the utilities, the insurance. I deleted my bank details from her accounts. For the first time in years, I put my money back into my life, not theirs. The text started the next day, first from Mom, confused, then from Eric, furious. By the end of the week, I was selfish, ungrateful, turning my back on family. Maybe they were right, but for once, I wasn't the one left with nothing. At first, the silence was jarring. For years, my phone had been a constant ticker of needs, overdue bills, sudden repairs, small loans that were never small and never repaid. Now, the only notifications were from my bank, showing a balance that, for once, wasn't circling the drain. I started redirecting the money I'd been sending to my mom into my own savings account. Within 6 months, I had enough for a down payment on a modest condo. It wasn't fancy 2 bedrooms, thin carpet, a view of a parking lot, but it was mine. Every appliance, every squeaky hinge, every inch of peeling paint, all mine. The first night I slept there, I didn't hear anyone banging on the walls or stomping overhead. I didn't wake up to frantic texts or missed calls demanding I fix someone else's problem. I woke up to quiet, to peace. It's strange, the way guilt lingers even when you know you've done the right thing. There were nights I almost called to check in, to ask if they were okay, but I'd remember how okay had always meant drained for me, and comfortable for them, and the urge would pass. I started doing things I'd never allowed myself before: weekend trips, new clothes that weren't from the clearance rack, even a pottery class, small luxuries, but they felt revolutionary after a decade of giving until I had nothing left. And here's the thing I realized: I wasn't actually missing family. I was missing the idea of family, the one where love is mutual, effort is balanced, and help flows both ways. The real version I'd been living in was nothing like that. I don't tell this story to make myself look noble or to paint them as villains. I tell it because, for a long time, I thought being the strong one meant carrying everyone else. I thought that was love. Now I know love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's servitude dressed up in sentimentality. So, if you're listening and you've been pouring yourself into people who only take, here's the question I wish someone had asked me sooner. What would your life look like if you gave even half of that energy back to yourself? If you've been in my shoes, the giver, the fixer, the one who's strong enough to handle it, then you know how heavy that title really feels. And maybe you've had your own breaking point. Maybe you're still on the edge of one. I want to hear your story, not just for me, but for everyone else out there who needs to know they're not alone in this. Drop it in the comments, tell me what you went through, how you handled it, or maybe how you wish you had handled it. And if this story made you pause, even for a second, to think about the way you give and what it's costing you, then stick around, subscribe, hit that little bell, and let's keep having these conversations. Because the truth is, we don't have to keep repeating the same patterns just because they're family. Sometimes, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival.